What's up, everyone? It is Lan here with another episode of the Cheeseheadz Weekly Podcast. We're here for episode number 54. We're going to have two guests on the show today. It is going to be a blast, and I'm excited for it. So before we get into it, I have some interesting topics to discuss. To be sure, some exciting news to share with you. But be sure to check out the Q&As and the polls on Spotify. That's only on Spotify if you're listening on Spotify. The show is available everywhere pretty much, except for Amazon Music and maybe a few other very lesser-known places. The show is available on YouTube now. Be sure to subscribe. Like the video. You can comment on the videos, any questions you may have for the show. There's also a link in the description of every episode, every single platform, even YouTube, to send in a voice message. Subscribe, follow wherever you get your podcasts on YouTube. You can follow me on social media. I'm pretty much everywhere at this point. On X, at Cheeseheadz_W, Instagram, and everywhere else, at Cheeseheadz_weekly. I do put the most stuff on X and Instagram. Instagram probably slightly more than X, but they're pretty close at this point. Be sure to check out the website. That's where you'll know where to find me, find the show, and just be able to connect with the show more. You can also find all the episodes on there and listen to all the episodes on there, and you can comment on all the episodes on that website, greycove.net/cheeseheadz. Be sure to rate the show wherever you can. Spotify, you can rate and review on Apple Podcasts. And you can check out our link tree, link.tr.ee/cheeseheads-weekly. It might be cheeseheads_weekly, actually. And that also will give you kind of the main places where you can listen, find the show as well. New episodes come out every Tuesday. Hit the bell icon on YouTube or Spotify or wherever else you find that function to be notified when a new episode comes out. All right, so let's jump right into it. We have some big news. The Packers have officially hired a new defensive coordinator. This, again, is kind of old news for most of you, and we're not going to get into this hire too much today, or really any other time. Obviously, we'll talk about it slightly, give our thoughts on it, and talk about it, throughout the offseason, because it plays a key part. But the new hire is former Boston College head coach Jeff Hafley, coached at Boston College for 4 years. We'll get into a little bit more about him later. But kind of a surprising one, was not interviewed, at least it was not reported that he was interviewed beforehand, and it was reported afterwards that they offered the job to Zachary Orr, former Ravens inside linebackers coach. He declined that offer, and the Ravens promoted him to defensive coordinator after their defensive coordinator, Will McDonald, accepted a head coaching job with the Seattle Seahawks. So got a little bit complicated there. Jeff Hafley's a friend of Matt Lafleur, so it worked out great. Also, another small news, former NFL quarterback Sean Mannion is retiring to become the Packers' assistant passing game / quarterbacks coach, just an assistant, and there was a report that Tom Clements will be staying. This does not mean Tom Clements is leaving. He will be staying on as the Packers QB coach, so this is great for Jordan Love. This is great for Sean Mannion because he can learn under Tom Clements. Love gets another good mentor, as Mannion was known for his football intelligence while playing in the NFL. Also, while Jeff Hafley is retaining Ryan Downard and Jason Ripovich on the defensive staff, he will not be retaining Jerry Montgomery, who is actively searching for other coaching opportunities. And they also have let go of defensive quality coach Justin Hood. Well, actually, they didn't really let go of him. He accepted a job as the Atlanta Falcons secondary coach and will be getting a better more important job, trying to move up the coaching ranks there. So congrats, Justin Hood, on that promotion. And hopefully Montgomery can find somewhere to be. He is the longest tenured Packers coach, was, and now is not. So Mike McCarthy hired him, I'm not sure what year, and he's been through several coaching changes, DC changes, head coach change, and generally spoken highly of, but the guess is Jeff Hafley wanted to go somewhere else and perhaps combine the defensive line and edge rushers and have just one coach kind of combine the position, especially if he's going into more of a 4-3 style defense. And we'll talk about all that more later. I want to talk about the NFL. The NFL has been dominant over the past few years, just in ratings, everything skyrocketing. They're all about the money. Everything is, they're promoting the NFL everywhere. And tell you what, the NFL is just really dumb. It gets really annoying. They pretend they're trying to help player safety. For one thing, a lot of the things they do not do a thing for player safety. They just make the game worse. They also added an extra week a couple years back. And so there's 18 weeks, 17 games instead of just 16. For one thing, I don't like that because that makes the Super Bowl on the second Sunday of February instead of the first. We always have church on the second Sunday of February. So that is not great for me. Not like I care a whole lot about this Super Bowl in particular, but it's nice to be able to watch the Super Bowl. We also, Pro Bowl games. Pro Bowl just went away. Used to be fun, you could watch a game between an extra football game between, it's kind of just fun. AFC, NFC. I'll admit Pro Bowl games is kind of interesting, and I'm sure they still draw lots of viewers. They draw lots of hate. I'll admit I do kind of like watching some of those skills competitions. They're kind of fun. But I think, you can do all those skills competitions, and then you make the game a real football game, and so we can actually see their real players' real skills. It's kind of fun to watch still, but not a huge fan of it. And, of course, that's supposed to be for player safety. I remember watching one of the last actual Pro Bowls. It was pretty much two-hand touch. It was the lamest thing I ever saw, and I wish they would just go back to playing a regular Pro Bowl. That would be awesome. Also, we got playoff games, or just games throughout the season, streamed only on Peacock or other platforms like that. Just streaming platforms. That is really dumb. Can't even watch it on TV. And some people don't have those streaming services, so you got to pay for a streaming service in some cases just to watch an NFL playoff game. They do this for playoff games. It is really dumb. Trying to promote the NFL and making it inconvenient for just regular people who just want to watch the game, and just making it really inconvenient. Which, I'm sure they're getting more viewers and everything. I'm sure it's working out just fine for the NFL. Also, we got all kinds of Europe games. Does anyone in Europe even care about football? And, there has not been a ton of people in attendance for those games in London, Germany, wherever else they've had them. I think they don't really need to do that. Just adds a bunch of extra travel, and again, not very nice for players, but who cares about the players anyway when you're making that much money? Also, the officiating has not been great recently. It doesn't seem like they're cracking down on all these rules, handing out lots of fines, and just calling a lot more penalties, and they don't really need to do that. And of course, then the NFL defends the officials. Officials never do anything wrong, and that's not very nice to the players. Players don't like that. And of course, you got this whole Taylor Swift thing, which I think is a little bit overblown by fans. Taylor Swift does not show up on TV very much. I get it. The NFL just, it's definitely a big storyline, but you don't have to make it that. It's NFL isn't really making it that big of a thing. It's a lot of just some people are fans of Taylor Swift and they love to see it. I mean, hey, I guess it's pretty cool, a star singer and a star football player dating each other. I mean, I guess that's cool. But I don't really care a whole lot. But I mainly just use the Taylor Swift thing as a joke, joking that the NFL is rigged, all this stuff. So, all in all, makes the NFL kind of dumb because you got to pay for stuff. It's inconvenient all the way around, and the only reason they're doing this, it's not for the players, not for player safety, even though they say it is sometimes. It's all for the money, and NFL does not care one bit about what fans or players think. So, is what it is. Just wanted to point that out. By the way, NFL fans, at least some of them, I try to be as rational as possible. There's some diehard fans out there that are just downright unacceptable behavior. Death threats to kickers on social media, all kinds of stuff. That is just dumb, okay? We don't need any of that, okay? Like, fans need to just cool it and get a life if all they care about is football and their team having to win, and if their kicker misses a field goal, then you got major problems. I'm talking about the Tyler Bass incident, but there's all kinds of incidents of fans, like some coaches are afraid to let their wives sit in the stands. That was the thing with Kyle Shanahan. Didn't want to let his wife go to games in Philadelphia because the fans are too rowdy. Just a bunch of beer drinking. Like, watch football to watch football. It's not to party and get drunk. But that's a whole another discussion, I guess, too. But either way, some NFL fans and the NFL at times drive me crazy. Pretty dumb, pretty stupid. I just like football. I do not support the NFL at all. They support a lot of things that I will never support. A lot of trash. The NFL is just going the wrong direction, and there's no such thing as a real Christian. Okay, well, I won't say that, but I think there's a few sincere Christian players, perhaps, but the NFL is just embracing everything of the world, like everything, and they're just loving it. They're promoting all this stuff, and you know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to get into the specifics, but that is why I think the NFL is pretty dumb. I watch football to watch football. I like the football aspect of it, and that is where it lies and where it will stay. All right, without further ado, let's bring on Troy and Elijah to talk football.
All right, we are joined here by Troy and fan of the show, Elijah. You've listened to, at least from what I could tell, almost every episode of the show. Maybe not the very first few.
Yep.
I'm not sure. Have you listened to all of them?
I believe so, yep.
Okay. It's good to know. Yeah, I've seen you pretty active in the Q&As and the polls. So that's really cool. Yeah, so we're going to talk about the new DC hire. We got Jeff Hafley joining the Packers and replacing Joe Barry. He's a former Boston College head coach, coached there for 4 years. He basically has been some form of secondary coach when he coached in the NFL. He first coached in the NFL with Tampa Bay in 2012 as the assistant defensive backs coach. He was then promoted to defensive backs coach in 2013. And he also filled that same role as defensive backs coach in Cleveland during 2014 and 2015. Went to San Francisco from 2016 to 2018, also as defensive backs coach. And then in 2019, he went to college. I started coaching college at Ohio State as a co-defensive coordinator. And then that was just for one season. He's been the head coach at Boston College ever since. So the biggest thing that stands out to me is it seems like he's been around a lot of different schemes. He's been around Robert Saleh, Kyle Shanahan, not exactly known for his defense, but a great offensive coach. And if you have to coach against Kyle Shanahan's offense in practice every day, you're going to learn some things for sure. Robert Saleh is pretty much the main defensive name there. He's also coached with Ryan Downard, who is the Packers' current, I believe, defensive backs coach, one of their assistant defensive coaches. I didn't write that down, so I'm not totally sure on that, actually. But he's been Richard Sherman. Really liked having him whenever he was in San Francisco. They were both in San Francisco at the same time. Sherman especially praised his preparation. I think just the fact that he's been in different schemes, I think he'll be more willing to adjust his schemes. But I guess start with Troy. What are your thoughts on the hire?
I'm excited about the hire. At first, it was like who, just like everybody else. But
Yeah.
as we research and look up Jeff Hafley and his resume, you mentioned Richard Sherman, and he praised Hafley. He said, "quote He's right up there with the great defensive minds." So that's pretty good praise from a guy who played pretty well on that position defensively, Richard Sherman. So I think that was in 2018, his last year in San Fran, where those two met. I think the Packers will switch from a 3-4 to a 4-3 defense. They haven't ran that since 2008. What I've been reading is Hafley's, he's got a more aggressive style. He likes to send those blitzes. He plays a lot of man coverage. And when you think about that, that was the frustration, I think, with Jair and Alexander and even Eric Stokes. Those guys are more suited to play man coverage. Joe's defense, more zone heavy. Look what happened when Jair got one-on-one with Justin Jefferson. He held him to one catch.
Yep.
And so I think it's going to play to the player's strengths. I think Darnell Savage played better too under Mike Pettin when they played closer to when he got to play closer to the line versus as a deep safety under Joe Barry. Savage wasn't equipped for that, and it showed. He didn't have that great of a year. And then the last things I would say here is linebacker Isaiah McDuffie played under Hafley at Boston College, and McDuffie I think will be one of those players that will benefit in Green Bay with this change. And McDuffie said that when he was in Boston College, he changed the culture, and he's also said super smart guy, super detailed. He's excited. He thinks he's going to do a great job for the Packers, and so. I think when you see this, you see players, former players, current players, saying this was a good hire. I know he's taken a lot of flack in the media, Matt Lafleur, for this hire, but I think this has the potential to work out really well. And then the last thing I'd say is Carrington Valentine loves press man coverage, and he even said when they played against the Chargers, he said, "I want to go against Keenan Allen. I'm not backing down." So I think Hafley's going to bring that type of defense that the players are going to crave and love. And I think it's, we'll see what the results will be, but I think all the arrows are pointing up on my radar.
Yeah, that's kind of my thoughts as well. Elijah, you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, that was basically what I thought of him too. I liked that they play a lot of man. He plays a lot of man.
Yeah.
I think it'll really benefit the young guys because we have a lot of young, talented players, especially in the secondary. So I think that'll really benefit them.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I like that he plays a lot of man. I think I've always thought our corners were best suited for man. Even when we had Rasul Douglas, he was a man coverage corner,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
that's pretty much how it is. Still, with the guys we have now, you mentioned Carrington Valentine, Troy, and that was a good name to mention for sure because that guy
Mhm.
definitely has talent. He showed what he can do, and as a rookie, a 7th-round rookie, and I think Jeff Hafley can really help develop that group, especially in the secondary. As far as coaching McDuffie, I think that's really going to help too. I really liked what I saw from McDuffie whenever he was filling
Mhm.
in. He looked really good. Um,
Mm.
I think he could. I think if they get rid of Devondre Campbell, which it's possible they do, this offseason, uh, save some money on the cap. I think McDuffie could slot in as the number 2 linebacker behind Quay Walker. Um, Obviously, they don't have much depth there, and they're definitely going to need to address that during the draft, especially if they decide to let go of Campbell. But I'm really excited to see what McDuffie can do because he was good already last year.
Mhm. Yeah, one other thing about Hafley too is when he was with Ohio State in 2019 as a defensive coordinator, their rankings were first in defensive yards per play. They were second in total defense, third in scoring defense, third in sacks, second in passing yards allowed, and then first in red zone defense. So, um, and similar stats when he was with Boston College in 2021. His team ranked third in passing yards allowed, at 173 per game. That was nationally. And so, led in a lot of categories there too. So the numbers follow him, and those are some pretty good stats. And then you take that to the pro level, with the roster that he has, the talent that he has. I'd be shocked to see if they do worse, right? I think we'll see a
Mm.
significant improvement in their defensive rankings, and that will only help them in the playoffs. Uh, and just and even in the regular season. So for next year. So I think I'm excited to see Brian, I wish we were already here at the season so we could see some of this, but
Yeah,
I'm excited for it.
Mm.
yeah, for sure. I mean, from what I've heard and read, it seems like Jeff Hafley is about the complete opposite of Joe Barry, just
Yeah.
in scheme, the way he
Yeah.
runs everything. Like Barry was always way off, zone coverage or way off man, no blitzing, just rush 4 and try to cover. Um, and yeah, it was a mess. And light boxes, so they couldn't stop the run. Jeff Hafley plays a lot of cover 1 and likes to put extra guys in the box, stop the run. He talked about stopping quarterback runs and just the run in general. He focuses a lot on tackling.
Mm-hmm.
And he said he mentioned that a lot of guys, a quote I saw from him, he mentioned that a lot of guys, a lot of coaches focus on finishing the tackle, and he likes to work with players on the approach, like the angles you're taking. And that seems to be like a lot of the problem with the Packers tackling issues. And I think that could really, really help them out if they can improve the tackling as well. So, I mean, it sounds like Hafley is focusing on all the main issues that the defense has been facing. And he's also a really good secondary coach. So it seems like, I mean, you never know what's going to happen, but it seems like he's got all the bases covered and, focus on stopping the run, tackling, and then if you can teach these guys to cover, which I think we already got pretty good man coverage corners. Um,
Mm.
I think this defense can be pretty good. And even Brian Gutekunst in press conferences mentioned that he wants the defense to start playing fast and physical and aggressive, which is not what Joe Barry was doing for this defense at all. So I'm definitely excited. Any other thoughts you guys have?
And one quick thought, if it doesn't work out with Jeff Hafley, did you guys hear about the Packer fan that applied for the defensive coordinator job?
I saw a little bit about that, but
So the
maybe you can tell
guy by
us.
the name of guy by the name of Bill McDermott. So he applied for the job, and he didn't get selected. So, but we'll see where he ranked. But Mark Murphy writes him a letter. Isn't that cool? He actually wrote him a handwritten note thanking him for his cover letter and his resume for the defensive coordinator position. He said, "While your fantasy football experience is impressive, I regret to inform you that we've decided to go a different direction. I hear the Bears have an opening. You look to be a perfect fit for them. Thanks again. Sincerely, Mark Murphy." How cool is that?
Huh.
So, Bill McDermott.
I saw that that the letter was dated January 30th, and the Bears had already hired their defensive coordinator on the 27th.
So we missed out on it.
So he actually messed up on that part. I mean, the Bears probably still have an opening. I mean, there's always openings on the Bears coaching staff or roster. They're just, I mean, I'm sure they could always use another coach or another player. So
sure,
may as well just send them on over there.
Pretty neat that he actually wrote him a letter. He'll never forget that, and it'll be something he can tell his kids and family, and that's a pretty cool story.
For sure.
Now everybody will start writing resumes and letters to Mark Murphy to see if they get a response. So, which they will not.
Yeah. Exactly. All right. So we're moving into our top 10 quarterbacks. We each put together a list of our top 10 quarterbacks in the league, who we believe are the top 10, not just this past year, but in the league overall, taking a big picture look at the NFL and at which quarterbacks are playing the best right now, could play better in the future, and different factors went into this. And I'm sure different factors went into it differently for each of us. So it should be interesting to see what the thought process was going into these rankings. So Elijah will start us off here, give his top 10.
Cool. Yeah, so at 10 I had Dak Prescott. Both my 9 and 10 I had there for the same reason, being they're just not consistent enough. They're both pretty good, but I just wouldn't say they're consistent enough. So at 10 I had Dak Prescott. Tends to kind of fold in the playoffs. And then number 9 I had Jared Goff. I guess the Packer game on Thanksgiving is a great example. He just a lot of fumbles and just didn't take care of the ball much yet, and he has those games pretty consistently. And then number 8 I had Matthew Stafford. Though he's getting pretty old, especially his game against the Lions in the playoffs, just how good that was. That really that's the reason I still have him in my top 10 here. So number 7 I had Justin Herbert, and for him I would put him higher if I think he can be higher this next coming year with Harbaugh as his coach, but we haven't seen it yet. And that could have been because Staley held him back, but yeah, I have him at 7 for now. And then at 6 I had Lamar Jackson. He had a solid year. He'll probably be the MVP actually. So I don't think he should be, but that's another topic. At 5 I had CJ Stroud. He probably had the best year as a rookie quarterback ever, arguably. And I saw he only threw like 5 picks this year, that's pretty crazy for a rookie quarterback. And him and Jordan Love, I'm excited for that them two to be running the league in a few years.
Yeah.
And then at four I had Patrick Mahomes. Could be pretty low for him. Part of the reason I put him low is I lost a lot of respect for him this year, just with his especially the Bills game this year when he kind of went on that tantrum over that offside penalty.
Yeah.
That's part of the reason I put him lower, which maybe I shouldn't have for that. But and then I mean he didn't have a solid year this year. He threw 14 picks, only had 27 total touchdowns, but I mean he is in the Super Bowl. But
Yeah.
And then at 3 I had Jordan Love. If it wasn't for that little stretch there where he threw a lot of picks, man, he probably would have been the MVP this year. So yeah, I have him at 3. And then 2 I had Joe Burrow. I would have had him number 1 if it wasn't for injuries. So, and then at 1 I had Josh Allen. And the reason for that is I think he carries his team more than any other quarterback. And he's just, I think that's who I think should be the MVP this year. So, yeah, that's my list.
All right. Go ahead, Troy.
You want me to give my list? Just dive right in?
Sure.
All right. We'll do that. So mine is just before I kind of give the list is just kind of I would say my approach on it was kind of a futuristic approach. I kind of looked at some of these newer quarterbacks in the league. And so if I were picking a team or if I was drafting my team, who would I want to be my starting quarterback? Obviously, you look at past performance, but I was also trying to consider, future performance and what does the future hold on some of these top 10 picks that I've had. So with my particular list, I started off with one thing I'm going to say this. I omitted Prescott and Goff just because Dak doesn't, like to Elijah's point, Dak doesn't really seem to win those big games. They were just outside my top 10. And Jared Goff kind of in the same boat. So number 10 I have Brock Purdy. I think Brock he's a really good game manager, and I think he's a solid quarterback for San Francisco. He's really careful with the ball. He threw 11 interceptions, which isn't phenomenally low, but it's not as high as some others, and 31 touchdowns. So I think he's 4,200 yards passing. So I really like Brock Purdy and what he brings to the NFL. You don't think he can do the job, and then he just keeps getting the job done. So I like him. 24-year-old quarterback Trevor Lawrence. I know his year was off. He was injured. He didn't have that great of a year, but I think he is a good player, and I think you surround him with some more talent and give him some more time, and I think he's going to be one of the top 10 quarterbacks in our league. Trevor Lawrence is still pretty young, and I see some bright things with him. Jalen Hurts is number 8. Probably hurts to put him there for some, but that's where I'm putting him. He really didn't have that great of a year. Had a lot of interceptions, for 23 touchdowns, and 15 interceptions. So it was a little off year for him, but I still think he's, a top 8 quarterback. Justin Herbert, agree with Elijah. I think, just the coaching staff and the positions that he's in, if you look at Justin Herbert, big time arm, great passer, the guy is phenomenal talent. And I think talent always wins. And so he'll bounce back and have a really good year next year. Number 6, I have Lamar Jackson. He was more worried about being warm in that playoff game than winning the playoff game. He was always bundled up in his little coat. I agree. He's not the MVP of the league. Christian McCaffrey's your MVP. So, and it would be a shame if he doesn't win it. Number 6, Joe Burrow. Guy's a talent. Too bad he got hurt, but the guy is a competitor. I love him. Jared Allen, I have number 4. No doubt he's a good player. 18 interceptions this year. He threw more interceptions this year than I think there was only one other guy that threw more, and it was Sam Howell. He threw 21. So sorry, Elijah, but he throws too many interceptions. And then my number 3, I'm going to put Patrick Mahomes. I know the argument. He should be number one. And honestly, yeah, I get that argument. And I can't say that he shouldn't be. But Patrick Mahomes, you know, him and Kelsey, I guess it comes down to just personal choice. I think he's kind of a jerk. He gets all the calls, roughing the passers. I didn't like how they treated Justin Tucker before the playoff game, throwing his kicking tee and his helmet and his ball away. And it's just, they were in Baltimore. You don't do that. I just don't really care for Patrick Mahomes. That's why I ranked him 3. So you can call me a baby, but that's okay. Number 2, CJ Stroud. I put as number 2. I think he's a good up and coming quarterback. Definitely an amazing talent. And then number 1, Packer bleeding green and gold, Jordan Love. If you asked me if I was starting an NFL team today and who would I want as my starting quarterback, that's who I would want. He threw for 4,100 yards, 64% completion, 32 touchdowns, second in the league, only 11 interceptions. He was 6-2 in his last 8 games. He ranked number 1 in his passer rating. Out of the last 10 games played, he had the number 1 passer rating in the league. And he got no respect when they named the Pro Bowl rosters. They put Baker Mayfield in there, Geno Smith, Tua, Gardner Minshew, and Love didn't make it. So I hope Love plays with a chip on his shoulder and shows all those naysayers wrong. So because they didn't put him on their list, I'm putting him number 1.
All right. I like it.
All right.
At least you're definitely a Packers fan.
Yeah, I am. I'm not going to hide that. I seriously, if I was starting a team, I would put Jordan Love on my team.
You'd put him on your team over CJ Stroud.
Yes, I would.
Okay.
Hey, CJ Stroud, he didn't play. He threw 5 interceptions, but he didn't play. He played a limited number of games. So you gotta.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not saying he's not talented. But I'm going to take Jordan Love.
Yeah.
And look at the receivers Jordan Love have. I mean, I'm not discounting our receivers, but the youngest team in the NFL, and he put up these kinds of numbers and did this and he took them to the verge of the NFC Championship game with the youngest roster in the league to ever make the playoffs.
Yeah,
that's pretty impressive.
I do believe the Texans were the second youngest team, just to put that out there.
Yeah, they are.
But I'll get into my list and we can argue later.
Okay.
All right. So number 10, Matthew Stafford, older quarterback, just a solid veteran option, been in the NFL for a while now and knows what he's doing. He is a very solid quarterback. When he was traded to the Rams, he, finally was able to play on a good team, and it showed. It showed kind of his talents and very good QB. Led the Rams to a Super Bowl win 2 years ago. So impressive from Matthew Stafford. Number 9 is Brock Purdy. There's been a lot of talk about Brock Purdy on whether or not he actually is a good quarterback. Here's where I stand on that. I think he's a good quarterback. He's not a great quarterback. I think he, like you said, Troy, good game manager and knows how to run the system, and he's accurate. And an accurate passer counts for a lot in the NFL for sure. And that was kind of what Stroud's calling card was coming out of college, is that he was accurate. A lot of guys you see coming out of college now are, athletic, but they aren't really accurate, big arm, but just kind of raw and needing development. That's kind of what Love was, honestly, coming out of college. And that's why I think it was good for him to sit on the bench for 3 years. CJ Stroud just is kind of that guy that can come in and start playing right away. And apparently that's the same with Brock Purdy, even though he was drafted in the 7th round. That accuracy, just those certain traits that he has fit in perfectly with Kyle Shanahan's system. And he's been able to lead San Francisco to a Super Bowl now this year. Really excited for that guy and definitely rooting for him in the Super Bowl. Number 8 is Jalen Hurts. I think he's a pretty good talent. I like his running ability. That definitely is a big part of what he does. And I think that's why he wasn't as great this year. He didn't run as much. I honestly don't really know what happened with the Eagles. I don't know if it was Jalen's fault. Don't know if it was coaching. My guess is it was a little bit of everything, but a lot of it was coaching. They had 2 outstanding offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator who both departed, became head coaches and are now pretty successful head coaches.
Mm-hmm.
I think that played a pretty big part in what they're doing. And now they hired Kellen Moore at OC. They hired Vic Fangio at DC. And I think they'll be back next year. I don't think Sirianni was really meant to play call. I do think he is a good head coach, and I'm glad they stuck with him. And I'm excited to see if Hurts can get back to where he was last year, and I think he can. Number 7 is Lamar Jackson. I kind of have him down lower on the list than some would. Again, for kind of the same reasons you guys do. Has not been able to win the big game yet. I think he will. I kind of hope he will. I think he's a great young player, and yeah, I think he can eventually get there, but hasn't yet, and so that's where he is there at number 7. Number 6 is Justin Herbert. I think he is another outstanding talent. He showed that in his rookie year. Being able to play right away in his rookie year is pretty impressive. He put up a pretty good rookie year. And yeah, he's had Brandon Staley, who is now gone. We have Jim Harbaugh entering the picture. Hopefully, he can benefit from that and start putting up. And I mean, he hasn't played terrible, really, but he's dealt with wide receiver injuries and just not great coaching. And so I think Justin Herbert's a really good talent. I think he can really be good. And so we'll just have to see if the rest of the team can help make that happen. Number 5 is Jordan Love. Have him the lowest of anyone here. Not because I'm not a Jordan Love fan. I would I'm as big of a Jordan Love fan as any. In fact, I would argue I'm a bigger fan of Jordan Love than Robin is. But we won't get into that at the moment. And Jordan Love versus CJ Stroud is a question I debated a good bit, but I decided to go with CJ Stroud. Both have young receivers. Both have young talent. I would say the receiver groups are about the same. I mean, Packers, I think, have more depth in their receiver room. So I don't think that's a big difference. Their defenses, I didn't look at the defensive rankings. Maybe I should have done that. I don't know about what the defenses were. I know the Packers defense was not great. Texans defense is not known to be great, so I'm guessing that was probably about the same too. I think CJ Stroud is just so impressive that he's done this all as a rookie. And yeah, he's number 4, by the way. We'll kind of talk about these two together. So yeah, just as a rookie, Jordan Love was able to sit behind Aaron Rodgers for a few years. I think CJ Stroud was a little bit more polished coming out of college. And I think right now he's younger than Jordan Love. He's playing at such a high level. I just couldn't quite put Jordan Love on top of him if I'm taking a realistic approach to this. But hey, Jordan Love, top 5 quarterback in the NFL right now. That's impressive for sure. Number 3. Oh, and I will say this. Going forward, Jordan Love can definitely become the better quarterback, I think, just because I think Jordan Love has a little bit more athleticism than CJ Stroud does. I think he has more of the ability to run. Not that CJ Stroud doesn't. CJ Stroud just has never been much of a runner, really good pocket passer. I think Jordan Love, it's just the off-platform throws. Everything he does, he can do a little bit of everything. And so I think that's why Jordan Love could end up being, maybe next year he's ahead of CJ Stroud. Joe Burrow is number 3. The injuries didn't really play a factor in this ranking, I guess, because even if without injuries, I would probably put him ahead of Josh Allen, I guess, just because of the interceptions of Josh Allen and not quite being able to beat Patrick Mahomes, get over the hump, and make it to the Super Bowl. But I do agree with kind of your thoughts on Josh Allen there, Elijah. I do think he has played a big part in the Bills' success for sure, and he's a fun player to watch for sure, and just really athletic, very talented, and plays hard. Fights for any extra yards he can get, especially when he's running. And yeah, big fan of Josh Allen. I think he'll get there someday. He'll eventually be able to beat Mahomes. Bills, I think, need to put a little bit more around him to help him get there, maybe. But back to Joe Burrow, outstanding pocket passer, not really very athletic, and still gets it done. Really excited for what he can be and what the Bengals can be here in the future once he gets healthy. Patrick Mahomes is number 1. I thought this was going to be a no-brainer. He's been in 3 Super Bowls now, going to his 4th. He's won 2 Super Bowls. I can't even remember how many years he's been in the league. Yeah, someone can
6?
look that up.
I think 6. Like he's started 6 years.
Okay.
7.
So he could have been. Yeah, I mean, he's been in there a lot. He's won MVP his second year as a starter. Yeah, I don't remember those numbers, but he's going back to the Super Bowl. My point is, he's going back to the Super Bowl. He's been in the Super Bowl already. He's still young. He already won 2 Super Bowls, already been in 3, going to his 4th with a bunch of bad receivers who can't catch the ball outside of Rashee Rice. Just a really easy pick for me. In the playoffs, I thought Lamar Jackson, the main difference between Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes is Lamar Jackson did too much, tried to do too much, while Patrick Mahomes was just as poised as ever, and was able to make all the easy plays, take what the defense was giving him, march down the field, whether it's with the big play, whether it's just with a long, slow drive down the field. That's what really stood out to me with Patrick Mahomes, just his ability to stay in control of the game. And that's kind of what we saw from Jordan Love as well throughout the year. At the beginning of the year, he was pushing a lot of big plays, trying to make those happen. At the end of the year, he was taking what the defense was giving him, and then that opened up the big play, and he was able to hit on those as well. So that's kind of what kind of separates Patrick Mahomes, and again, just his dominance in the playoffs and the way he wins. I totally get what you guys are saying about his off the field stuff, and I definitely don't like the way he's getting all the penalties going his way, all that stuff. His tantrum in that Bills game, was not a fan of that at all. And I thought Patrick Mahomes was a pretty decent guy and before that, and definitely did lose some respect for him. And sometimes stuff goes to your head when you're winning that much, I guess. And it seems to be what happened with Patrick Mahomes. Pure quarterback standpoint, he is clearly the best out of everyone. So, real quick here, we also had Robin made a top 10. So out of 4 of us who made a top 10, I averaged out all the rankings and came up with a sort of consensus top 10, I guess. So I sort of cheated a little bit. I didn't get everyone else's opinion on this, but Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen both came out to 2.25, and so I just automatically put Patrick Mahomes at 1. So number 1's Patrick Mahomes, 2 Josh Allen, Jordan Love. with a average rank of 3. Comes in at number 3 for that. Joe Burrow is number 4, tied with CJ Stroud, 3.75 average rank. I wasn't sure exactly where to go there. My thoughts were Joe Burrow, obviously, for my rankings. And I put out a poll on Instagram, and I had 3 people all vote Joe Burrow. So I just put Joe Burrow ahead of CJ Stroud, who is number 5. Lamar Jackson's number 6 at 6.25. Justin Herbert, number 7, 7.75. Jalen Hurts at 8, 8.75. Brock Purdy at 9 at 9.5. And Matthew Stafford at 10.25. So I'd say that turned out to be about, I mean, it was actually pretty close to what my rankings were. And I didn't cheat on the rest of them, just on the ones that were tied. So
Yeah, and I can't argue with that. I mean, Mahomes numbers, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's obviously he's number 1. And if you're looking just purely Super Bowls and all those things,
Right.
and he did start in the league in 2017, but his first start was in 2018 is when he started. So it's been, like Elijah said, the correct number of years, he said. And the Super Bowls, that separates you. And so he has definitely done that. So I am biased, obviously I pick Love just because I love Love, and that's who I want to be my number 1 guy. And futuristic, like what's he going to do for the team, that sort of thing. But today, the way it stands, pure talent standpoint, yeah, obviously Mahomes is, you can't argue with those numbers. So I had a little fun with the poll and wanted to pull a little bit of the surprise out there. And so that's why I named him where I did. But I'm being honest, I would want to start my team with them. And definitely. But what's interesting is the bottom half of our rankings all kind of matched. We were all kind of lined up pretty well on where we ranked some of those. So I thought the change at the top a little bit here and there, and I think we can all agree Mahomes and Allen are the top 2 quarterbacks in the league as it stands today. But I think Love and Stroud are the future top 2 guys.
makes sense for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
I forget, where was that other? I guess I was talking to you about Jordan Love over CJ Stroud.
Mm-hmm.
That one's actually really close. I totally get going Jordan Love over Stroud. That was close for me too.
Yeah, when I look at the completions of 20 plus yards this year, Jordan Love has 38 completions of 20 plus yards, which is first in the NFL. He has 3 or more touchdown games with no interceptions. That's first. He's 8 of 10 games. He's had a passer rating of 108 or higher. That's first. 6 games he's been at 110 and 3 games at 125. And so again, all first. His passer rating in the last 10 games was best in the league. 6-2 his last 8 games. So he really started playing some really good football. And yeah, I just think those are pretty impressive numbers. So that's why I kind of based where I did for him.
Yeah. Yeah, Jordan Love, I can definitely see him winning a lot of games and potentially Super Bowls. Just, I don't know. I've talked about this a fair amount. I feel like he's a pretty clutch player. Obviously, it's a pretty small sample size, but from what I've seen, in big moments, he doesn't back down. He's San Francisco game, his performance was a little questionable. And at the end of the game, he did, the classic rookie mistake, throwing that pick. That's what we expected at the beginning of the year that we would see from Jordan Love. So I don't really have a problem with that. I know he's going to learn from it. So I'm just excited to see what will happen.
Yeah, he shouldn't have thrown it, but definitely, and I'm not gonna defend that. He didn't defend it either. It was just bad judgment. But got to take care of the football in that situation. But for the most part, he did it all year. I mean, there was a stretch where he only threw I forget how many interceptions it was. I had it written down here, but it was a very low number of interceptions his last 10 games too. It wasn't very many.
Like one.
One.
I
I
think
think
since
it was
week
one.
11, he threw one interception, if
That's what
I'm
it was. Yeah.
not mistaken.
So, that's pretty clutch.
Yeah. Anyone else have anything to add?
I wanted to give one stat on Josh Allen.
Okay.
All right.
In the playoffs, he's tied for the most games all time with 4 total touchdowns and no turnovers. And
Okay.
most of those games, I think a few of those games he's lost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, he played quite well against the Chiefs this past year.
I wanted the Bills to beat the Chiefs in the worst way. I really did. I would love to see Buffalo fans get a Super Bowl. I mean, they've been burned, when they lost the 4 under Jim Kelly and Scott Norwood missing the field goal, and just all these heartbreaking losses that the team has had. It would be nice to see them win one.
Yeah.
It really would, and I hope they can kind of keep it together and just keep. Or figure it out how to get, other than Green Bay. If Green Bay can't go, then yeah, I wouldn't mind to see them get there. I think Baltimore, Ravens. I think I don't know, were they just kind of a fraudulent team because when you look at it, they didn't really have much of a running game outside of Jackson. They got one receiver that was really good, and that's Flowers, a rookie, but Odell Beckham wasn't a major factor. And then Rashad Bateman, he was lousy all year, really. He had 1 or 2 catches a game. Losing Mark Andrews hurt, but likely kind of picked it up a little bit. He was average to good. But I don't know. I mean, when you look at that roster and it doesn't really scare you, does it? And then when you saw them in their game, it's like they really struggled. And I think they beat up a lot of teams when they had good defensive players or defensive games, and then when Jackson ran a lot, ran wild. But when they took those things away, when they took Jackson out of the game, and they seem to really struggle. So I almost wonder they were kind of a bit of a fraudulent team with the record, and that is a favorite, I feel. I mean, to me, Buffalo is better than they are, and yeah. They disappointed a lot of teams, and I think it really showed their true colors in the playoffs. I mean, Kansas City, give them credit; they're good defense, and they shut them down. But I thought they really faltered, and I think they showed everybody that they weren't as good as everybody thought they were.
Yeah, I still don't know how they blew out San Fran.
Yeah, that is. I mean, apparently they just rattled Purdy from the beginning. I mean, that's where 4 of his interceptions came from right there.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think it was their great defense that really got them there. And when their defense was keeping other teams down, they were able to just crush opponents. But I feel like
Kansas City. Go ahead, Lander.
They felt like I think they were passing way too much for one thing against the Chiefs. They barely ran the ball at all. And the run game and defense was kind of what was their game plan before. They immediately left their game plan as soon as they started getting behind. I think that was the problem. I think they just couldn't really win a close game or come from behind.
Yeah. And they really rattled Jackson, too. They were just after him all day.
For sure.
He was clearly frustrated.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Kansas City, that's one thing that they don't get a lot of credit for, but their defense is really good this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why they're where they're at, too. It's not just Mahomes.
Yeah, this is the best defense they've had with Patrick Mahomes. And I mean, it came at about the right time, too. He doesn't have any receivers this year. And so now they have a good defense.
Yeah.
What do y'all think of Taylor Swift in the Super Bowl?
Well, yeah. Elijah's shaking his head off camera here. Yeah. I think every NFL fan is done with it, but the NFL's not done with it because I'm sure it's all about the ratings. I wonder how many people are watching because of Taylor Swift now, and yeah, I don't know. They pan to her way too much, and but they're going to continue to do it, so get used to it. So
Yep.
Yep.
yeah.
Maybe Kelsey will retire and then we can be done with that.
Well, if they win a Super Bowl, he very well could with his brother Jason, and then we can
I
be,
think he should if they
done
win
with
the
it.
Super Bowl. If they win the Super Bowl, he should just call it a career right there.
I would. I mean, look at all the
Uh-huh.
endorsements. He's on almost every commercial during the game.
Yeah.
Just the amount of money that he's making from the commercials, and then I'm sure his brand has even increased with the connection with Swift, and so yeah, are not going to be an issue. I'd retire and go out on top too. Have my health.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think Jason Kelsey almost stayed in too long. If you watch like the Kelsey premiere and different stuff, you hear from him that he has dealing with a lot of pain and
Mhm.
has a hard time just getting on the field
Mhm.
anymore, like with just all the different aches and pains you have from all the surgeries, just everything combined.
Yeah.
Like NFL is rough.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very brutal on his body. You could tell it was time for him to retire, and I'm sure he doesn't regret that at all. But well, thanks for having us on, and good job, Elijah, your first
Oh
time
yeah.
on there.
Yep.
So thanks for joining. It was cool.
Yeah, that was fun.
Thank you. Yep.
No problem. All
Cool.
right. I'll talk to you guys later, I guess.
All right. We'll see you.
Yep. See ya.
Bye.